What is up, my friends? Welcome to How to Be Alpha, a podcast where we talk about working your ass off to run your own business and what it means to have a personal brand and generate revenue using your own face and stories. We talk about batch workflows, business mindsets, and other hacks for being alpha. I'm your host, Elizabeth Halford, and I've been curating my personal brand since 2008, when a career as a pro blogger landed in my lap. I became a well-known brand, generating a full-time income before that was really even a thing. I took a break, and now I'm back, bringing you all the juicy gossip to be alpha in your business. And by that, I mean being the best you can be, because your only competition is you, which is great news because it means everyone can be alpha. A few notes before we get started. Don't drive and take notes. Every episode has its own page at youisalpha.com/podcast. Also, please leave me a review on iTunes. You're a small business. I'm a small business. You know the drill. I might even read it out on air. Thanks for joining me. Let's jump right in. Episode 1, here we are. Hopefully the beginning of a long and beautiful relationship. I am an avid podcast consumer. It just feels really natural to be jumping into this for me, mostly because I have been creating content for years. I mentioned in my intro, and if you used to be a reader or you know me personally, you'll know that in 2008 I started blogging before I didn't know what blogging was. I will tell you that story another time. I think it's pretty interesting because it just, like so many wonderful things, it's just a career that landed in my lap. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't trying to make it big. I'm still not trying to make it big. I just found myself, I've always been a writer. I was, writing for the Orlando Sentinel when I was a kid, and they had this section of the newspaper called The Rave, and it was for teenagers. And man, if I didn't put my hand up at those editorial meetings for every single article, I was always writing. I was getting my parents to drive me all over Florida to interview people, and I took every assignment I possibly could because at the heart of it, I'm a journalist and I love uncovering a story. I can find a story anywhere. And so that really kind of worked for my career and everything I've done. Story is the thing, right? Story is king. Story is the thing that we're all after. We tell ourselves stories. We can get ourselves worked up. Right now I have some really intense back pain. And so for a few days before I went to my chiropractor, who's one of my clients, and so he was like, why am I only just hearing about this? And I said, I like to gather data. I'm a junkie for data. So it's like, I wanted to, tough it out for a few days and see, what the deal was and, how many pills did I need to take? And, I needed to make myself a spreadsheet and a graph of my pain, for a few days. So anyway, in those few days, I had really kind of convinced myself that there was something super seriously wrong. Like I had one of those disc problems or like one of those things that I've been dreading all of these years. I have a disabled daughter and I lift her way more than I should. And we don't have the equipment to lift her anymore. So I kind of convinced myself, I told myself a story that I had with a slipped disc, so I wouldn't move. And I went to see him and he did an x-ray. He's like, no, it's just like a muscle thing or whatever. And all of a sudden the pain is bearable. All of a sudden I'm bending over. All of a sudden I'm like, I know it's going to get better. It's just a muscle thing. I did something weird. And all of a sudden my outlook has changed. Everything has changed because the story I'm telling myself has changed. And so, yeah, we're totally hooked on stories. It's why we watch movies. It's why, we take these narratives about modern day romance and what a happily ever after looks like. And we run our lives based on these stories. So everything is rooted in story. So, when I was producing video for corporates, a lot of my clients were like, these big tech companies. And so often I would have clients who'd be like, I'm so sorry about this boring subject I'm giving you. It would be about like cloud something, or like software as a service, or just something that they were like, geez, I'm really sorry, this has to be your job. But I find a sense of excitement in anything, because I was like, dude, like it's so fun to find a story here, and like, who are the people who are using these cloud solutions and how is it affecting their lives? And somehow my excitement would be infectious for my clients. So yeah, so I've always been rooted in story. And this podcast is no different. This is content, When I was in ad school, one of the big things that they would talk about, and I had already kind of knew this to be true, is that you give your every piece of creative that we make, every piece of content that we make, we give it legs. And that's a whole episode in itself. But we give our content legs, which means we take one idea and we flesh it out in every possible way, in every possible avenue, which is why if you go to the website, the youisalpha.com/podcast, you will find a blog post for every single episode. And it's basically going to have my script in there. Like everything that I'm talking about in this episode is going to be in there, because that's written content for people who want to read. Now you can listen to me. I'll probably make a video. So so this just feels totally natural to me. A very small percentage of podcasters make it past that first 10 episode mark. And I'm very optimistic that I will be one, because I'm viewing this as an opportunity to connect with my audience the way I've been connecting with you guys since 2008. And I used to be teaching photographers how to run their business. And now I am still a practicing photographer. I'm using my photography and my skills and my background and strategy to teach and talk to people who have personal brands, people who are generating revenue using their own face and stories. And don't, I would say, or do, I like to give a do, not a don't, do resist judging that this isn't for you just yet. If you are a real estate agent, if you are a dentist, especially in America, dentists and plastic surgeons and doctors, they have these like personal brands. They have these, some of them have massive Instagram followings where, they're doing all this lifestyle stuff and it's part of the marketing of their business. Pretty much no matter what kind of business you have, even if it has its own brand, people are looking at you. A CEO has their own personal brand. One of the big projects that the video production agency that I used to be in, just before I joined, I worked on this project, but I wasn't part of coming up with it. But it was brilliant. The CEO of a big global corporate, who I can't name because I don't know what the rules are, but the new CEO came in and he was like, hey, I need to brand myself here. I need to separate myself from the guy before, and what can I do to brand myself? And the guys that I worked with were so smart. They were like, how about we make like a chat show, like a TV kind of show that will go out in the intranet? So that CEO was really smart to know that, yes, the company has a brand. Yes, the business has a brand, but I have a brand. And so if you're running a business, whether you are even present to it or not, you have a personal brand. So stick with me. I really think a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about is going to be helpful, is going to apply to you. But that's not really what we're talking about here today. That's just my little intro. Today, we're talking about ways to make people like you. And I know it would normally, it's, the intuitive thing would be like, we'll start at the beginning and, I'll tell you my story. I will do that sometime. But I really want to get into the meat of what's important to you as a personal brand, because right now you come first. And so today we're going to talk about being likable. Why? Why be likable? So I'm a pretty big supporter of being yourself, which for me often entails giving precisely 0 Fs about what people think of me. Now, I am a potty mouth, but because I love you so much and I know you are busy working your ass off, I shouldn't say the A word, because you're probably maybe in your car with your kiddos, and I don't want them to be like, why did that lady say the A word? So I'm really going to restrain myself. I can't say my blog posts will be that clean, but yeah, so I often give 0 Fs what people think of me. And so that makes for a weird subject for someone like me to cover as often as I have. The need and the methods for making people like you. So why should you care about being likable? Your ideas and your goals are going to be easier to share and achieve if you are able to connect with others. And people need to like you for that to happen. To sell any brand, personal or otherwise, people need to know, like, and trust you. And that is a mantra. That is going to be a mantra in this podcast. It is going to be a mantra across, my brand, my personal brand, the things I talk about on my Instagram. And you should dive into the rabbit hole of my Instagram, because those images actually have like mini blog posts in the caption area. So I talk a lot about the importance for people to know, like, and trust you. Those 3 things help a business build rapport with their audience. There's this guy called Mark Roberge, or Roberge, I'm not sure, I've only ever seen it written. And he's at Harvard in the business school, and he has a lot of accolades. But he says about rapport, personal branding is all about building rapport at scale. And rapport is one of the most fundamental sales techniques. And that's a real fancy schmancy way of saying people need to know, like, and trust you. So to that end, being likable can generate revenue for your business. So this is why we're wanting to be likable. Now, who needs to like you? Number 2, who needs to like us? There's a big difference between being likable and being well liked. You are not going to be everyone's flavor, and that's actually important when finding, connecting with, and growing your tribe. I probably repel people who don't like the F word. My tribe appreciates a well-executed F-bomb, okay? So while you need to engage in activities which draw your ideal audience to like you, you might also want to disqualify people who aren't your ideal audience, and that's okay. Who needs to like you? There's only one person who needs to like you, and that is your target audience. That's it. That's a list of exactly one thing. One time, an older man in my family very clearly said that he hates Lady Gaga. and that she's ridiculous, and why does she think anyone would like her weird and horrible music? And I just kind of just real blankly and matter-of-factly said, she does not care what you think. You are not her target demographic. Personally, I really dislike Gary Vaynerchuk. I know he has a huge following. Everybody loves him. I used to think he was a maze. And then he got louder and more jumpy and made me feel more and more frantic and panicked when I listened to him speak. I find myself almost hyperventilating when I'm watching his stuff. I'm like, dude, chill, take a chill pill. But you know what? That does not matter to Gary V one bit, because I am not the overhyped, ride or die kind of dude that he's trying to obtain. His likability to someone else, for me, is a disqualifier. So not everyone needs to like you, and that is okay. How to make people like you there's a lot of things. So full disclosure, I got this stuff I'm about to talk to you about from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which is 100% the most important book anyone can read in their lifetime. Now, I can hear my husband going, now it's the Bible. If Jesus himself were walking the earth, he would and he does embody the gorgeous, heartfelt, kind, and meaningful ethos for connecting with people, which Dale Carnegie lays out in his book. It's super old, like the Bible, not as old as the Bible, but it's a classic, okay? How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I weave it into almost all of my methods for connecting my personal brand to you. So if you like me, if you find me likable, then this is how it's as simple as that. It's as simple as all the things in that book. So number one, I'm going to talk to you about 4 things. I'm going to talk to you about, number 1, becoming genuinely interested in other people. It is incredible what can happen when you stop talking about yourself and you start asking others questions. We're all pretty selfish people, and that's not going to change. We have one main question in our head at all times, and that's what's in it for me. And that's not always a bad thing. Some people genuinely love helping others, and that gives them a feeling of satisfaction or whatever. And so, that's what's in it for them. For me, I learned that when I started asking others about their lives, their jobs, their upbringings, their interests, I learned so much. And it's a surprising change of pace for people when others take an active interest in their lives, because it does not happen a lot. I cannot, I can list on one hand the amount of people in the last few months who have just looked me in the eye and said, like, how are you? That's very rare. Or, who are you? Let alone that kind of question about what do you do, which I find a way to just kind of know what box this person you're talking to belongs in life, in the world, and, in their upward mobility or whatever. I get it. I find myself doing it all the time too. What do you do? But even that is, not everybody asks that. They just talk about themselves. So how does this translate to digital? Because we're talking about personal brands, and most of us are carrying out our personal brands, connecting with our audiences digitally. So in the digital space, it can look like polls. It can look like invitations for discussion in the comments area. It can look like direct questions to your audience. But I personally sniff out insecurity all too often, and I find it difficult to not think, you care about that. You just want comments and likes and engagement for yourself. Because comments are way down these days. I don't even know why I have comments turned on my website, any of my websites. I have literally not had a comment on my website in years. Unless it was like a bot or something. We are even too lazy to like stuff these days. I'm holding my phone with my right hand, and on Instagram, the heart's on the left side. And I have not really picked up that double tap thing. So I'm too lazy to move my finger. I don't like stuff. I just think, oh, that's a pretty picture. So I probably respond to invitations to engage with someone who doesn't know I exist, 1 out of 100 times when someone's like, oh, it's Monday. What did you do this weekend? And I'm kind of just thinking, oh, you're just trying to get engagement. But it's hard out there. This is what we're trying to do, to engage and connect with you guys. But it's pretty embarrassing when you say leave a comment and no one says anything. So I tend to not do that. I think polls are great. I think you can go on, I'm not talking to 100 people right now. I'm just talking to you. Whoever you are, if you're in your car, you're probably on the toilet, to be honest. And I'm just sitting here with you, talking to you, okay? I'm not talking to everybody. So when you throw those things out there and you say, everybody, leave a comment on this, it comes across as insincere. I used the word insecure earlier. I probably meant to say insincere. And so, Instagram has this great thing in stories now where you can ask a question. You can say, do you have any questions for me? Is there, for the next hour is happy hour. I'm going to sit here and tell you anything that you want to know. Whatever has to do with your expertise. If you're a health coach, I'm going to sit here and answer your questions for an hour. Use it as an opportunity to, get an email address, but also to really connect with people, because the Instagram stories, all the kind of new stuff that's in there now with the polls but particularly that asking questions thing has been really, really, the engagement I got from that the first time I did it was shocking. And I was not strategic about it. I was just like, hey guys, ask a question. And a lot of it was just, just silly stuff or whatever, but I connected with people. And if you're doing it from your, through your professional channels, through your professional profiles, through your professional Insta, then it's going to be great for your personal brand. Also, you can go live on Facebook and connect with people. But just remember that you're talking to one person. The only person that matters is the person who's listening to you. So talk to that one person. Don't be like, hey, thanks everyone for joining me. No, just be like, thank you. Thank you for listening, because it means so much to me that anyone might be listening to this right now. There's a lot of stuff you could be listening to. There are a lot of podcasts, lots of business people. I'm not even sure about sticking this in the business category. There's a million of them. Digitally engaging with and being genuinely interested in people does not have to be en masse. That goes with everything I just said. If you quote some of your contemporaries, invite them to engage with your audience. This could be as simple as saying, hey, I wanted to quote this thing you said. Can we talk about that more? And then include in the caption bit, I actually talked to this person and I asked them this question about this quote and this is what they said. So you can connect with these people who you're quoting. They're not just like invisible people out who, we're just stealing their worlds to create our own content. So that's number one. Number one was become genuinely interested in other people and find ways to translate this into your digital channels. Number two is smile. Smile, my friends. Can you hear me smiling at you right now? Smiling is not only a brain hack to make you, I'm so happy now, to make you a happier person, which we'll talk about another time. Smiling makes other people happier, and it makes you a more likable person. I have resting, I know I said I wasn't going to say any swear words. I have, I have resting bee face, okay? So people often, like even my family, even my husband is like, are you mad at me? And I'm like, I'm just listening to you, dude. Like, keep going. Like, because my face looks angry. I don't have a naturally like uplifting, like happy face. My listening face looks like, bitchy resting face. Okay. So I'll put a quarter in the swear jar. So how does this translate to digital? And how do you smile on the internet? Number one, smile on the internet. Make sure your avatar on the internet is the same across all your social profiles. Number one. This makes you easier to find and helps set your visual brand, which is super important for personal brands and influencers, online entrepreneurs, etc. And make sure that the photo is one in which you're looking straight into the camera and smiling. This is not a place to look sexy or moody unless that's your brand, unless you're like a fashion brand or whatever, and looking away from you is like a thing. But if you're going for that know, like, and trust journey, start with a smile, okay? Just look down the lens of that camera, smile straight at them. Smile when you speak, when you're on the phone, when you're in video calls with clients, when you're recording a podcast, smile. It'll come through in your voice, okay? Also, because I have this resting bee face problem, when I'm looking at people in my mind, I have to think wonderful thoughts about them. Not that I was thinking bad thoughts about them otherwise, but I have to be like, you're so lovely. I'm so enjoying my time with you, because I know that's going to come across in my face. And I'm not going to have that kind of like angry looking face. So number two was to smile. Number three is to remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. That is a direct quote from Dale Carnegie. I'm going to say it again. Remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Isn't that lovely? And it's so true. One of the things which made me turn my back on Starbucks, other than the fact that their coffee is not my favorite, was years upon years of people asking me for my name, getting it wrong, and then not ever using it again. Not calling my name when my order was ready. It happens a lot more here in America, but in the UK, they ask you your name and that's just it. They write it wrong on the cup and that's it. And I'm convinced that at an executive level, the tradition of asking someone's name at Starbucks was rooted in this revelation, this Dale Carnegie's revelation about people and their names. And it's just gone down the line and become so poorly executed that now I just feel unimportant and overlooked. They write it wrong. They don't say it at the end. And so now I'm like, you know my name, but you refuse to use it. And that feels awful. In real life, making use of someone's name looks like this: learning and remembering their name and using it when you meet them. So, hi, Elizabeth, great to meet you. And then using it when you see them again the next time. I am always so pleased and surprised and warmed when someone remembers my name. It surprises me every time. And this, I'm not good at remembering name stuff, is not a good excuse. Learn some hacks, learn people's names. It's really important. And then use their name in conversation. It's a classic sales strategy and it can be done really sleazy, but a really well-executed name drop can be a great tool in selling, whether you're selling an idea during a debate, selling chores to your kids, or selling your product to your clients. So how does this translate to digital? The people who engage with your content, those people are your tribe. So take a few minutes every day to reply to comments. Simply say thank you. Use their name when it makes sense. Use their username, whatever. Connect with them, reply and say thank you. When shooting off emails to your list, set your email program, your MailChimp or whatever, to use their name. So make sure that your forms require at least a first name. Share reviews you receive and include your client's name, unless there's a reason that you can't do that, like an NDA or something. So number 3 was to remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Number 4, hold that thought. I just need to introduce you to my sponsor. She's gorgeous and she's smart and she's alpha and she's me. Until I have a fancy sponsor giving me money to talk about their stuff. Hello, Squarespace. This podcast is sponsored by me and my business called You Is Alpha. Listen, when I was a new blogger and content creator, Instagram wasn't a thing. I survived for 5 years on one set of images. It's not like that anymore. If you use Instagram, email marketing, or blogging, your audience expects to be served timely, new, and stimulating visual content and the stories you write to go with them. You Is Alpha is a photography brand serving influencers, online entrepreneurs, and personal brands with batch-created photographic content to generate revenue by staying at the forefront of your audience's mind. And because we only shoot once per quarter, you walk away with 3 months worth of content to post and use regularly. Schedule that stuff out and get back to running the rest of your business. You can find me at youisalpha.com. I snuck up on you there, didn't I, with my first ad. Hope it was painless and you didn't skip through it like I do. Number 4, talk in terms of other people's interests. In tip number 1, I said to make sure to take an interest in others, to ask them questions, to invite them to talk about themselves, and shut up about yourself for a while. Now, we have to hold this in tension with the truth that as a personal brand, we have a platform with which we're sharing ourselves, and naturally this means talking about ourselves. So how do we talk about ourselves without appearing overly self-absorbed, narcissistic, and unnecessary, and forgetting that they are numero uno? This can come down to being as simple as having an editorial calendar. Work your business in quarters, plan your content, and be intentional, because this workflow gives you the opportunity to really carefully consider the things which you share with your audience ahead of time, to ask yourself, what things do I have in common with them? These can be very high-level things, which a lot of people are interested in, like loving your family or being hooked on coffee. But one of my personal brand crushes, Jamie Swanson, she talks a lot about identifying uncommon commonalities. whereby we find those little things which our tribe notices in passing and has this huge internal yes response. Now, you're talking about yourself, but you're also talking in terms of their interests. For me, at the moment, it's tacos. Oh my God. If I'm posting food pics, it's tacos. It is stupid how much I love tacos. And I also talk a lot about my houseplants. I'm a hashtag plant mom and hashtag plant parenthood. I used that recently and someone said, "Did you make that up?" And I wish I could have said yes. It's my favorite hashtag. But yeah, I'm totally into my houseplants and I haven't killed one in a while. So these are the things I talk about. So be intentional. Plan your content. Ask yourself what stories you want to be telling for the quarter and make sure that they lead back to an action that you need your audience to be taking. Because after all, you're meant to be building a business and generating revenue here. So find a way for this talk to lead to action and activate your audience. For example, for me, I'm literally coming up with this idea as I speak. It could be a PDF, best tacos in Orlando, to build my email list. Pro tip, and another little shameless self-plug, hire a personal brand photographer to shoot these images to go with your planned content for the quarter. You can do this all in one day if you hire the right person. Make sure you hire a photographer who affords you commercial rights and knows how to roll with or help you come up with your own strategy. If you don't have an editorial calendar and you hire a photographic strategist, they should be able to help you, and I can help you, invent one. What are you going to be talking about for 3 months? What kind of images need to go with that content to activate your audience into reading it? Then the content itself will activate your audience into doing something else, which, leads to generating revenue, because we're not just doing this to be vain and see ourselves out on the internet. We're doing this to make money, right? In short, to summarize, your brand needs to be likable. You need to cause people to know, like, and trust you, and to make a person feel seen and known themselves is a very powerful gift that you can give them. We certainly don't get that often on the internet, and we don't sometimes get what we need in person either. So to do this, to recap, number 1, invite people to share themselves with you and your audience. Smile. Learn and use people's names, and find the uncommon commonalities that you have with your audience to help them feel seen and known. Thank you so much for listening to my very first episode. You are part of my dreams coming true right this very instant. I'm so thankful for you, and I can't wait to have you with me again next time. Thank you so much for listening. You are such a babe. A reminder that all notes are available at youisalpha.com/podcast. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as youisalpha, and on Instagram, I'm youalphababe. Now go leave me that review, and remember, you is kind, you is smart, you is alpha.